and he doesn't just sit on his money and eats caviar and eats balut. He's an everyman kind of guy. Welcome to another edition of Coffee with the Goose. We take a look at a lot of different things. Politics, religion. Oh, does he talk politics? Well, not today, okay? Medicine, you name it. We talk about a lot of things, including boxing, of course. I'm the Goose. Glad to have you back with me. And we're going to do a little edumacating today in boxing, okay? You're going to like this. But first, got to have a little coffee, right? My PED. My coffee, as you know, very strong, like my opinion, and got some creamer in there to make it sweet. Oh, I'm so sweet. Try to be. All right. What are we going to talk about today? Well, you've heard this name, and many of you know all about this guy. But many of you who have never really looked into who he is, where he's from, what he's all about, don't really know a lot about him. And nothing wrong with that, okay? But we're going to answer the question today, who is Manny Pacquiao? You hear the name a lot, but you don't hear a whole lot other than he's a great fighter. That's about it. And he is. He's a great fighter. But we're going to learn a little bit more today. And I'll give you turn in, tune on, drop out. How's that? Timothy Leary said. Turn you on to a movie that I watched just a couple of years ago, and you'll know what Manny Pacquiao is all about. Anyhow, Manny Pacquiao is a native of the Philippines. He grew up in, I believe, General Santos City, that area in Mindanao. He is 42 years old, and he could be, I believe he is, the greatest boxer ever. Yeah, you can argue that. There are a lot of great fighters out there. But Manny is, he's the only fighter ever to win a championship, a world title, in 8 different weight classes. It's unthinkable that a guy could accomplish that. And he's also won titles in 5 different lineal divisions. It's just unbelievable what this guy has accomplished in the boxing world and continues to accomplish. He's about to fight another world championship fight at the age of 42. But he grew up poor. Now, I know you've heard this story about a lot of fighters. Matter of fact, most of the great fighters grew up poor because that's, you learn to fight. You learn to survive. You do what you can. And the world isn't fair, right? The world's a tough place. And, but Manny Pacquiao, oops, you okay there, bud? Manny Pacquiao, you all right, dude? You hang out with me, you'll start acting like me and dropping stuff. That's what was it?
My candy.
Oh, goodness. Oh, well. 5-second rule.
Yeah.
There you go. But Pacquiao, grew up very, very poor in Mindanao. And I believe he was born in 1978. And throughout his childhood, along with being poor, when I say poor, I don't mean, they just had one car, didn't have any cars. I mean, they were dirt poor. And along with the poverty, the running battle between the rebels, the Muslim rebels, and the Philippine army continued right in their back door. And many of the battles took place in his front yard. But Manny was again, not just poor, but his father, and I think they've made amends and they have a great relationship now, but his dad cheated on mom and eventually left. And so Manny had to do his part. He became the man of the house, and he had to do whatever he could to make money to make sure that the family was fed. So he hopped on a boat and went to Manila. And I believe during this time he was selling, picking up trash, empty bottles, and selling them, and selling cigarettes and selling a lot of different things to make a few pesos to bring food back to the table. And so it was a tough go. And eventually he became a boxer. And I think he was 16 years old, and to make weight, the minimum weight, he had to put rocks in his pockets to get up to that weight. I mean, that's how, desperate he was. And then it was, from then on out, it was the history in the making. Now, if you want a great idea, instead of just hearing about it, you could actually see it depicted in front of your eyes. There's a great movie. Watched it just a couple of years ago with my Filipino wife. Okay. The movie is called Kid Kulafu, and it depicts Manny's childhood and his early days as a fighter. And it's very touching, and you begin to understand what Manny Pacquiao is all about. And he's gone through a lot of changes as he grew older and more successful, became wealthy, et cetera, but his core remains the same. He's a fighter. Yes, he's a boxer, learned all these different skills. He's a professional. He's one of the greatest ever, but at his core, he's forgive my term, a badass. He's a fighter. And all these great boxers, great fighters that he's faced throughout his 23 years, 24 years as a fighter, even to this day, you ain't going to just stand there toe-to-toe with Manny Pacquiao, even though he tends to be smaller, shorter reach, etc. You're not going to stand toe-to-toe with this guy and survive the fight. Yeah, he's a beast, and he's very intimidating in the ring, okay? You see two different Manny Pacquiaos. We'll get into that in just a minute. But what has he accomplished? He was a world championship fighter before he ever came to the United States. And then he met up with Freddie Roach. We've had the opportunity a couple of years ago, before his last fight, as a matter of fact, we met Freddie Roach and interviewed him. He's a great guy, former great fighter in his own right. And we learn a lot from Freddie Roach. He is a Hall of Famer, Hall of Fame trainer. He's trained many different champions, but Pacquiao is the king. And he took an already great fighter, but a brawler, if you will, and turned him into a polished champion. He now, in short order, learned how to use both hands. He's a southpaw, and his right hook is deadly. And he sent a lot of people to the hospital, and it just kept escalating from there. And he taught Manny not just to use his God-given skills, but his brain. And they worked together, and they still work together. And Manny is a very, very smart fighter, a very tough fighter. And up until just recently, he was still a champion at the age of 42. He was the WBA World Welterweight title holder. They took it away from him because he hasn't fought in a year and a half. Well, of course not. With the COVID pandemic, you can't fill stadiums, and what good is a great championship fight, if nobody's there, right? So anyhow, he's probably going to get another a title back, but he always fights the best, and it looks like his next fight will be against another one of the best. But Manny, he is, I'll kind of where do I put this in the conversation? I'll just say it right now. He's a great guy, full of love, full of laughter. He's Filipino. That's just in your blood, in their blood. That's what they do. They're a very joyful group of people. But and look this up online, okay? Anytime he enters the ring as a fighter, he's walking with his entourage from the dressing room to the ring, and the camera's in front of him, and he's still all smiles, getting pats in the back, high-fiving everybody. He's laughing, he's smiling. Then he gets in the ring, and the animal comes out. That smile's gone. And when he's at that face-off, when the referee has both fighters and explaining, okay, here's the low blow, fight fair, blah, 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 be a good boy, you see that look in his eye, and his opponent, who is probably a champion, sees that look in his eye. Look at the Keith Thurman fight, his last fight. Thurman's a serious guy, but look at Manny Pacquiao's eyes. That nice guy ain't there. He's back in the dressing room or somewhere else. The beast is in the ring. And and I'm watching this at home, and I know I speak for a lot of you guys. I'm not even in the ring, and I'm looking at him going, whoa, whoa. woe be to you, Mr. Challenger Keith Thurman. And sure enough, he went down within 2 minutes. Pacquiao's a fierce competitor. Anyhow, why is he so popular? Well, yeah, it's because he's a championship fighter. But there's much more to that with Manny Pacquiao. He's been in, I think, 5 movies. He's had 3 albums, I think, maybe more. He's been in the professional basketball player for a couple of years in the Philippines. But it goes even beyond that. He is a senator. He just 2 years ago, he got his degree, his college degree in political science. He is a colonel in the Philippine Army. I think it's largely ceremonial or something to that effect, but he's got the title anyhow. He speaks several languages, 4 that I know of. He speaks Tagalog, the national language. He speaks Bisaya, which is spoken in which is what my wife speaks, and she speaks several languages too. He speaks some Latin because grew up a Philippine Roman Catholic, and he's learned to speak sign language. What else can this guy do? Well, there's a lot he can do. He's a family man. He's been married to Jinky for going on 20 years, I think. He helps the poor. He's a multi-millionaire, and he doesn't just sit on his money and eats caviar and eats balut. He's an everyman kind of guy, and he's a very devoted family man, and he helps the poor. He's built a hospital. He's built thousands of homes for poor Filipinos with his own money. That's the kind of guy he is. He helps the poor, and even whenever he comes to the United States on Thanksgiving or whatever, he helps the poor here too. That's what he does. And even more than that, he's humble. And he learned humility at his roots when he was a poor child. And he's also learned humility from losing in the boxing ring. And like any great fighter, he's lost. And he's learned that in the end, who can you count on? God. And God demands, as you know, 2 things from us. He demands humility and he demands love. And that's yet another reason why Manny Pacquiao is such an icon. We see all these things that this man has done. With celebrities, we see it in Hollywood, we see it in the sporting world, we see it, unfortunately, in politics too. All these people are they're human beings, and very few of them can you turn to your son or daughter and say, be like him, be like her. Very few of them. It's very unfortunate. But Manny Pacquiao is one of those guys. No, I don't want to see my son get punched in the face a few hundred times. But yeah, be successful, be loving, be giving, be generous, get an education. That's what this guy does. And that's why Manny Pacquiao is such an icon, why he is beloved, not just in the Philippines. In the Philippines, and he might end up he's a senator now, he might end up being next year the president of the Philippines. Isn't that just incredible? That's the heights he's attained, and he is beloved. When he fights, there's no crime. Everybody's watching the fight. It's really incredible. That's why, and again, he's human, like you and I. He's fallen, like all of us. None of us are perfect, and none of us are even close. But he sets a great example. And that's why, people in the Philippines and all over the world, here in the United States too, have the utmost respect for this guy. And we love and we're excited about his next fight. And we love talking about it and arguing about it. And boy, when that fight night comes, we're all gathered around the TV and the popcorn and the pop, and no balut for me, but you get the idea. It's always fun. And it's going to be fun again here, I'm guessing, in the next couple of months when Pacquiao gets in the ring for another championship fight. It's going to be a great time. Anyhow, that's all I have for you today. That's it for this edition of Coffee with the Goose. As you guys know, I love getting your opinion. I love reading what you have to say. whether you agree with me or not. I love getting the conversation going. You guys are and girls are a very, very smart bunch, and I love to hear what you have to say. Thanks so much for watching. Many thanks to you subscribers, and we'll talk to you again soon. Take care.